Y'all got y'all teacups? I got some tea. Let's sip. This is Cassidy Hutchinson. Y'all remember her from the January 6th committee hearings? She was the one that told us about Mark Meadows and him not really being responded to what was happening on January 6th. She was also the one that told us that Donald Trump was attacking his Secret Service men in the truck on January 6th because he wanted to go down to the Capitol, and the Secret Service says, no, put your seatbelt on, we going back to the White House. Well, she wrote a book about her experience in the White House. Now, some people are feeling a certain kind of way. A lot of people aren't feeling sympathy for Cassidy Hutchinson because she knew the devil that she was working for, and yet she chose to work for him anyway. Me, on the other hand, I just want to know the tea. So she wrote a book, and there's a lot of buzz going around about this book because it's dropped. And she was on Rachel Maddow last night, and this is the tea that dropped.
In your book that received some attention ahead of publication is an allegation you make that Rudy Giuliani effectively groped you at the Trump rally on January 6th. You say that he reached his hand under your blazer and then under your skirt. Mr. Giuliani's spokesperson has called this a disgusting lie against Mayor Giuliani. He gave us that statement again himself tonight. But I was struck by the fact that he was not the only one. Page 52 of the book, you say that John Boehner, of all people, looked down at my cranberry vodka and whispered, dark liquor or red wine from now on. Then he tugged on the ends of my hair, saying, and lose the ponytail. You describe one man who worked in the White House, Mike McKenna, as having a tendency to publicly single out women with crude and demeaning comments. You describe the president, and this is not groping, this is not physical, but you describe him as telling you to add blonde highlights to your hair, which you then went home and did and came back to the White House the next day. That doesn't happen in normal workplaces. I'm just telling you now. Sorry.
Yeah, I learn a lot on the outside.
Yes. There's a whole world out there when guys get fired for doing stuff like that.
It's unbelievable. Well, it's shouldn't be unbelievable.
Shouldn't be unbelievable. But there's also a couple of instances involving Congressman Matt Gaetz. I will omit most of the context here, but I'll tell you the lines that have kept me up and uncomfortable. He chuckled and brushed his thumb across my chin. Has anyone ever told you you're a national treasure? You describe a night at Camp David when he was leaning against the door frame while somebody answered the door to another cabin. Matt straightened his posture when Kevin McCarthy asked him what he wanted. He explained he had seen my golf cart parked outside and thought this was my cabin. Embarrassed, I got up and asked Mr. Gaetz what he needed. He explained that he was lost and asked me to escort him to his cabin. I told him to proceed around the Circle Drive. All the cabins are clearly marked. It's impossible to get lost. He asked me one more time to leave with him. Kevin McCarthy then said, quote, get a life, Matt, and shut the door. Now, Mr. Gaetz, we asked him for comment on these allegations tonight. He told us, I don't remember either of these events. And based on Cassidy's prior false statements, I doubt they occurred. I did date Cassidy for a few weeks when we were both single years ago. We parted amicably and remained friends thereafter, even during President Trump's post-presidency. And then he goes on to make other unrelated claims. I'm sorry to ask you if you want to respond to that, but I'm going to ask you if you want to.
I would love to respond to that. Okay. So thank you for giving me the option.
Yeah.
I will give Matt credit in his part of his statement that we did have an amicable working relationship, and we were good friends at points. Matt Gaetz, in my opinion, is somebody that I personally do not hold in high regards in terms of trust. And I do not think that Matt Gaetz has the best track record for relationships and condoning his relationships how he thinks that they might be defined. I will say on behalf of myself, I never dated Matt Gaetz. I have much higher standards in men, and Matt, frankly, is a very unserious politician. We see that today with the ruckus that he is causing on Capitol Hill with the spending negotiations. And I don't really have much else to say to somebody that is more concerned about a soundbite than actually passing legislation.
Mr. Giuliani's remark in response to your allegation about him, which was graphic and gross, was that this was a disgusting lie against him. Do you stand by that statement despite his pushback?
I stand by my statement and what I described in the book, and I agree that it was gross.
Cassidy Hutchinson, you have been through a lot, particularly as a very young woman who had to do a lot of this on her own. The record that you've given us is much, much, much more complete than anybody else could have given us, and it took a lot of bravery to get there. This has been a hard time in your life, but you've done a service to your country, and I hope that good things happen for you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Cassidy said, I do not hold Matt Gaetz in high regard. She also said that he is an unserious politician. Baby, if she didn't cut him down at the knees with a smile. But in hearing that, it just took me back to the situation with Lauren Boebert. And then from there, it took me all the way back to this.
Sexual perversion that goes on in Washington. I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington with the average age of probably 60 or 70. And I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you. And it's like, wow, this is wild.
That was former House Republican Madison Cawthorn. I know y'all remember Madison Cawthorn. After he made that statement, baby, somebody in the Republican Party took Madison Cawthorn down. But when you listen and hear all of the stories about all of the escapades that happen within the political party known as the Republican Party, Madison Cawthorn was right. Madison Cawthorn told us the truth. Lauren Boebert went into the house married. Now she's getting a divorce, messing around in musical performances, fondling men and getting fondled. Marjorie Taylor Greene went into the house married. Now she's getting divorced. It was exposed that she had been messing around with several different men at the gym, and now she's dating somebody within the Republican Party. Rudy Giuliani getting sued by the person that he harassed, and now we find out he also harassed Cassidy Hutchinson. It's one big orgy going on over there in the Republican Party. And Madison Cawthorn told us. Listen, when I saw that clip of Rachel Maddow, I went right on over to Audible and I downloaded my copy of Cassidy Hutchinson's book. I'm sorry, y'all. I want all the tea.